Welcome back to Capital Catch-Up, your inside look at the machinery of government. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. We are looking at the legislative landscape for the week of February 19th through the 25th, 2026. It's been a week heavy on environmental policy, public health, and a significant slate of nominations that could reshape several agencies.
That's right, we have a lot of ground to cover, from the Senate floor to the House committees. Let's start with the executive branch. The Senate has received a fresh batch of nominations for the 119th Congress, and one name stands out immediately regarding public health.
You're talking about Casey Means. She has been nominated to be the Surgeon General of the Public Health Service.
Exactly. This is a crucial role. The Surgeon General is often termed the nation's doctor. Means is being tapped to replace Vivek Murthy. If confirmed, she'll be stepping into a position that has become increasingly focused on the metabolic health crisis and chronic disease management.
And speaking of health, Victor, there is a piece of legislation moving through the Senate that pairs perfectly with that conversation. Senate Bill 1552, the Living Donor Protection Act of 2025.
This is a bill that has been in the works in various forms for years. Historically, living organ donors, people who give a kidney or part of their liver, have faced higher insurance premiums or even denial of coverage later in life because the donation was treated as a pre-existing condition.
Which is a massive disincentive for altruism. Senate Bill 1552 aims to prohibit that discrimination in life, disability, and long-term care insurance. It also codifies that organ donation surgery qualifies for FMLA leave. It's a move to align federal policy with the medical reality that we need more living donors.
Moving from health to the land, we have a significant nomination for the Department of the Interior. Stephen Pierce of New Mexico has been nominated as Director of the Bureau of Land Management, or BLM.
That is going to be a confirmation hearing to watch. The BLM manages 1 in every 10 acres of land in the United States. Pierce is a former congressman, so he knows the legislative side, but the BLM director role is often a tug-of-war between conservationists and energy development interests.
And Congress is actually giving the BLM and other agencies more tools to manage that land. We saw House Resolution 3922, the Cross-Boundary Wildfire Solutions Act.
This is critical legislation for the West. Fire doesn't stop at a property line. House Resolution 3922 authorizes more seamless collaboration between federal, state, and private land managers to conduct fuel reduction projects. It cuts through the red tape that often prevents a fire break from being built just because the land ownership changes.
In a similar vein of resource management, we have Senate Bill 2245, amending the Digital Coast Act.
Digital Coast sounds like a tech startup, but it's actually a NOAA program. It provides the data, tools, and training that communities use to manage their coastal economies. This bill extends the program and improves data accessibility. If you are a city planner in Miami or Seattle dealing with flood maps, this is the data you rely on.
Let's pivot to housing and the economy. We saw House Resolution 7597, the Affordable Housing Barriers Transparency Act.
The key word there is transparency. We aren't seeing a mandate for building here, but rather a requirement to identify and report on the regulatory barriers that drive up costs. This builds on previous efforts to simply understand why a starter home costs what it does today.
And for those who already own homes, there is House Resolution 4758, the Homeowner Energy Freedom Act. The text suggests a push toward deregulation or incentives for private energy generation, like solar or independent grid solutions, reinforcing the theme of energy independence we've seen this session.
On the financial side for everyday Americans, I want to highlight House Resolution 3159, the Improving SCRA Benefit Utilization Act.
The SCRA is the Service Member Civil Relief Act. It provides legal and financial protections for active duty military, like capping interest rates on loans they took out before enlisting.
Right, but the problem has always been utilization. Soldiers often don't know they qualify, or the paperwork is a nightmare. House Resolution 3159 puts the onus on creditors and the Department of Defense to ensure those benefits are actually applied. It's a small procedural change with a huge impact on a soldier's bank account.
We also have movement in the education sector. House Resolution 5458 is the CCAMPS Reauthorization Act. For our listeners who don't speak acronym, that stands for Child Care Access Means Parents in School.
This is a program that provides campus-based childcare for low-income parents in post-secondary education. It's the first time in a few years we've seen a robust push to reauthorize this. It acknowledges that the traditional college student isn't just an 18-year-old anymore. Many are working parents.
And while we are looking at education, Senate Bill 1070, the National STEM Week Act, was introduced. It's a formal push to highlight science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, likely coordinating federal agencies to host outreach events.
Combined with House Resolution 2600, the Ascend Act, we are seeing a distinct focus on future-proofing the workforce.
I also want to touch on a few other key nominations that hit the Senate floor this week. Ryan McCormack has been tapped for Undersecretary of Transportation for Policy. Given the recent infrastructure debates, that policy role is the brain of the DOT.
And Kyle Housefit for Undersecretary of Energy. Plus, we have Irving Dennis nominated as CFO for HUD, Housing and Urban Development. That role has been under scrutiny regarding audit compliance, so Dennis has his work cut out for him.
There was also a flurry of specific localized bills. House Resolution 6365, the Wintergreen Emergency Egress Act, and House Resolution 4467, modifying the boundary of Vicksburg National Military Park.
Those sound small, but for the residents of Wintergreen or Vicksburg, these are major public safety and economic drivers. It's a reminder that not everything Congress does is national. A lot of it is strictly local problem solving.
And finally, we can't ignore the cultural resolutions. Senate Resolution 613, recognizing the Army-Navy football game as America's game, and Senate Resolution 615, celebrating Black History Month.
And House Resolution 1945, the America's National Churchill Museum National Historic Landmark Act. It's interesting to see the House move to federally recognize a museum dedicated to a British Prime Minister. Though given Churchill's mother was American and his history with the U.S., it fits.
Before we wrap up, I looked through the Congressional Daily Records, volumes 172, numbers 33 through 37.
What did you find in the fine print?
It confirms the Senate is moving quickly on these nominations. The advice and consent function is in full swing. The record shows committee referrals are happening almost immediately upon receipt, which suggests leadership wants these positions filled before the spring recess.
So what should listeners watch for in the coming days?
Watch the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. The hearing for Stephen Pierce for the BLM will likely be the fireworks show of the week.
And keep an eye on House Resolution 7396, the Native American Entrepreneurial Opportunity Act. We didn't dive deep into it, but it streamlines small business administration resources for tribal communities. If that moves to a floor vote, it usually signals bipartisan cooperation is still possible in the 119th Congress.
That's all for this week's Capitol Catch-Up.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next time the gavel drops.